Hey guys, Nick Espinoza, your chief security fanatic here, and today is Sunday, so we are doing breaches of the week, and we are actually catching up on 2 different weeks. Last week was the end of 2019, so I did my breaches of the year video, and so I don't think I have any overlap from the previous week, and if I have 1 or 2 that are, I apologize. But before we get into that, I'd like to thank the following people: Neville Goodalls, Chris Fallon, Barrett Peterson, Rebecca Rutherford, David Walker, and Sandor Slidnerink. Guys, thank you very much. And if you have a data breach for me, please feel free to send me a message, and I'm more than happy to give you a shout out as well. And with that, let's start in the United Kingdom with the UK government. They're apologizing after accidentally publishing the addresses of more than 1,000 New Year honor recipients online. This file included details of senior police officials and politicians, as well as celebrities, and was uploaded to an official website basically the Friday before New Year's, and was removed Saturday morning. Among the addresses were those of Sir Elton John, other celebrities, major politicians, and CEOs in the UK. So heads up to you guys. Moving on, we're going to be talking about Maastricht University. They had a ransomware hit, and basically almost all Windows systems have been affected, and it is particularly difficult to use email services, according to the university as well. And so if you have anything to do with Maastricht University, heads up. And finally, from my notes from the previous week, was Wyze, the IoT device maker. These are the 3 that I might be repeating here. They sell smart devices like security cameras, smart plugs, smart light bulbs, smart door locks, etc. And they confirmed that a server leak exposed the details of roughly 2.4 million customers. An internal database was accidentally exposed online, according to one of Wyze's co-founders. And so that's a very serious issue. If you use Wyze products, you might want to check with them. Moving on until this week's research in the past 2 weeks, let's talk about 12,000 users across 149 companies. This is according to Google. Google has directly warned more than 12,000 users in 149 countries that they have been targeted by government-backed hackers. Google says the attack attempts occurred in the 3rd quarter of 2019 as part of its attempt to block government-backed groups from hacking. Google says its threat analytics group or threat analysis group has been tracking more than 270 threat actors from more than 50 countries. The technology giant says that it regularly warns users about state-sponsored hacking and phishing attempts, and over 90% of these attacks are phishing for credentials, probably through Gmail. So heads up if you are one of those 12,000, or if you get an alert from Google that says state-sponsored hackers are after you. I'm guessing government officials and corporate leadership. Moving on, let's talk about Raven Air or Raven Air. This is out of Alaska. They were forced to ground flights about 2 weeks ago or so following a cyber attack on their computer network. Now, this is interesting. The nature of the attack was not disclosed. However, the company did reveal that threat actors specifically targeted the small airline's turboprop-powered regional airliner, the de Havilland Canada DHC-8 aircraft, also known as the Dash 8. As a result of this incident, the airline had to disconnect its entire Dash 8 maintenance system and the backup system. So I'm guessing the computers they plug into these planes were the ones that got hit, not the planes themselves. At least that's what we're hoping. And so hopefully Raven or Raven Air will be up sooner than later. Moving on, let's talk about Visa, the credit card payment processor. They're basically saying that North American merchants who operate gas stations and gas pumps are facing a rash of attacks from cyber crime groups wanting to deploy point-of-sales malware on their networks. In 2 security alerts published in November and December, respectively, Visa said that its security team investigated at least 5 incidents of the sort. The payment processor said cyber crime groups carried out attacks with the main purpose of gaining access to fuel dispenser merchants' networks, where they install point-of-sale malware. The other thing we also have to worry about as well on top of this is skimming devices. When you go into a gas station or up to a gas pump, give the keypad a little bit of a lift, or the card swiper a good tug, and they shouldn't come out in your hand. And if they do, you found a skimming device. So heads up to all of you, Visa is pretty much on high alert these days. Moving on, let's talk about Landry's. Now, they own restaurants like Bubba Gump Shrimp Company, Joe's Crab Shack, and the Saltgrass Steakhouse. They're based out of Texas. They're warning customers after a data breach may have compromised credit card information. The breach may have happened when servers were swiping, basically servers like waiters and waitresses were swiping customer credit cards in machines intended to submit food and drink orders to the kitchen and bar, as opposed to the separate machines used on point of sales terminals. Why that was an option then, I have no idea, but that is according to Landry's, and I think it's very interesting how they're differentiating that. But if you have eaten at a Landry's, heads up to you, your credit card may be compromised at all 63 locations that they own. Moving on, we're going to be talking about a company called LifeBin, that is life with a Y. This is a healthcare startup. They expose thousands of medical imaging files such as x-rays, MRI scans, and ultrasounds. Now, the LA-based healthcare startup allows doctors and medical staff to store images in its secure environment, quote unquote, per its website, allowing patients and doctors to access it from anywhere. So heads up, if you are a doctor or medical office that uses LifeBin, your patient information may have been exposed, in which case you have to declare a HIPAA breach because this is basically a supply chain hit. Moving on, we're going to be talking about Allianz Partners in Belgium. Now, interestingly enough, this is a physical breach. A strongbox containing backup copies of data related to disaster claims was stolen in the Netherlands in August, and this is according to Allianz, the insurance company. And so here we are. According to an audit and analysis of the documents concerned, the strongbox contained data on 160,000 Belgium customers who had filed claims for disasters or breakdowns under their assistance contracts for or travel insurance. So heads up, if you are living in Belgium and you use Allianz Partners as your insurance, you might have been hit. Moving on, we're going to be talking about a company called Synoptech. This is a California-based business that provides cloud hosting and IT management services for more than 1,000 customers across the United States, and they suffered a ransomware attack this past week or so that disrupted operations for many of its clients, and the company quickly reported that they have reportedly, paid a ransom demand in a bid to restore their operations as quickly as possible. I jumbled up my words there, but anyway, if you use Synoptech, heads up, your data might have been ransomed or copied, God forbid. Moving on, we're going to be talking about Lurie's Children's Hospital of Chicago. This is a very famous children's hospital, at least here in the Chicagoland area. They're notifying some of their patients about a former employee's access of patient medical records. On November 15th, the hospital learned that between September 10th, 2018 and September 22nd, 2019, so just over 1 year, an employee accessed certain patients' medical records without a business reason to do so, and this is according to Lurie's Children. That is a HIPAA breach, so heads up if you have a child that has been a patient at Lurie. Moving on, we're going to stick with Chicago and talk about the Sinai Health System. They just got breached in a cybersecurity incident that occurred in the fall of 2019. Attackers are thought to have gained unauthorized access to the organization's email via phishing attack, pretty common method. Patient data was stored in the email accounts that may have been exposed, including names, addresses, dates of birth, social security numbers, health information, or health insurance information. 12,578 people were exposed. So if you have anything to do with Sinai Health, you know what to do. Moving on, the Center for Healthcare Services in San Antonio, Texas. A cyber attack has shut down their computer network. They are basically their county's largest provider for mental health and substance abuse services, and their CEO, Jeline LeBlanc-Burley, confirmed this past Tuesday that the company's systems were basically included in a larger scale cyber attack last week that's under investigation by federal law enforcement agencies. So heads up to you if you have anything to do with the Center for Healthcare Services in San Antonio. Moving on, we're heading to the state of Michigan. Richmond County Schools, they fell prey to ransomware, with attackers seizing control of its computer system, demanding $10,000 in Bitcoin to release it. Now, the district officials said their servers were attacked by ransomware during a holiday break, and that the virus affected telephones, copiers, and classroom technology. The district closed 3 schools for the week so their employees could resolve the problems, and obviously this will be time consuming for them. So heads up, Richmond Community Schools. Moving on, we're talking about Active Network. Now, this is a company that provides web-based school accounting software for kindergarten through 12th grade schools and districts, and they just declared a data breach earlier this week. The US-based company said hackers gained access to Bluebear, a software platform that facilitates administration and management of school accounting, student fees, and online stores on behalf of schools and other educational institutions. Parents who access the school's Bluebear-based web store to pay school fees or buy books or school supplies between October 1st and November 13th of 2019 may have had their personal data stolen by attackers, and I'm wondering if this is going to turn into another Pearson. Pearson was that huge publisher that got just a slew of school districts across the United States to declare data breaches. We'll see where this goes, but this may be recurring like Pearson for weeks. Moving on, we're going to be talking about Moss Adams. From what I understand, they're a rather large accounting firm in the United States. They just disclosed details of an incident in a statement shared on the website of the California Attorney General. As revealed, the firm noticed some unusual activity with one of their employees' email accounts in October of 2019. Investigating the matter revealed that the email account had some personal information of customers or employees, and thus they expect the attackers might have accessed this data, and so heads up to you if you use Moss Adams as your accounting firm. Moving on, we're talking about Klamath County, Oregon. They're warning those with ties to the Veterans Service Office of a data breach of employee email accounts in mid-September. That investigation found affected people's personal information. So heads up if you're a veteran and you use a service office in Klamath County, Oregon, where you live, you may have been affected. Moving on, we're talking about the city of Erie, Colorado. They lost more than $1 million to a business email compromise scam that ended up basically with the town's employees sending funds to a bank account controlled by scammers, not a legitimate financial advisor. Heads up to Erie, Colorado. Hopefully they'll be able to reclaim some of that money through insurance. Moving on, we're going to be talking about Ingleside, Texas. They got hit with ransomware. 8 on-site computers have been affected and have been disconnected until basically the infrastructure is scanned and secured. That's all the information I have on that right now, but heads up, citizens of Ingleside. Moving on, we're talking about truckstop.com. I think you can figure out what they do. They just got hit with ransomware, and that was behind a week-long outage that website had, which basically affected sites including its load board, online carrier safety vetting, and payment services as well. So hopefully truckstop.com is back online and fully secured. Moving on, let's talk about Air China, which I believe is China's largest airline carrier. They just suspended a flight attendant, and this is interesting, over a personal data breach involving 20 celebrities. Now, this employee basically was accused of publishing personal information on social media about famous passengers that were basically on her flights. The flight attendant had published information on about 20 celebrities on Weibo, that is a social media platform in China, including details of their flight records, membership card status, nationality, and date of birth. So heads up, if you're a celebrity flying Air China, you might be on Chinese social media a bit more than you want to be. Moving on, we're going to be talking about Aurora, Colorado. Now, personal information from some Aurora water customers basically got hit thanks to the whole Click-to-Gov payments breach, and I have been talking about that for the last few weeks. And so basically, if you are using Click-to-Gov as a government, odds are you might have had a utilities hit, or basically your utilities payment system might have been hit alongside of a whole bunch of other things with other cities out there. So Aurora, Colorado, latest victim of Click-to-Gov in terms of disclosure. And finally, I have one of two things that I want to talk about at the end of this video here. The first one is the Heritage Company out of Arkansas, and this really sucks. This is just before Christmas. They sent home more than 300 employees and told them to basically find new jobs after IT recovery efforts didn't go according to plan following a ransomware incident that took place in the beginning of October of 2019. Employees of the Sherwood, Arkansas-based telemarketing firm were notified of this decision just days before Christmas via a letter sent by the company's CEO. This really underscores the need for good cybersecurity. The Heritage Company basically had to fire their entire staff of 300 employees because they went out of business due to ransomware. This screams for for good cybersecurity, cyber defense strategies, including defensive systems, backup systems, redundancy, everything. You do not want to be the next Heritage company, and I feel absolutely awful for 300 people just before the holidays losing their jobs. That is absolutely horrible. And the next thing I want to talk about as well, and this will be the last thing in Breaches of the Week, is I find this one very fascinating too, because I don't know where it'll go, but basically there is something called Maze ransomware, which has been very, very nasty. It has basically its creators and those that are using it are essentially anonymous, but they're being sued by a victim for illegally accessing their network, stealing data, and encrypting it. So in other words, basically somebody got encrypted, and now they are suing these anonymous operators of the Maze ransomware. Now, this is a company, they are suing Maze, and this company is called Southwire. They are a leading wire and cable manufacturer from Carrollton, Georgia, and they were attacked in December of 2019. As part of this attack, the ransomware allegedly stole 120 gig of data and encrypted 878 devices, effectively shutting down Southwire for a good chunk of time. But how do you sue that which is anonymous? And so I'm curious to see where this goes. I'm assuming that what they're doing is they are suing this, and it's a holding pattern, and as law enforcement around the globe starts to find the operators of this and arrest them and ideally convict them, then the lawsuits will come. But I'm curious to see where this goes. I don't know how this will go down. I'm not a lawyer by any stretch, nor do I want to play one on TV. And so if there are any legal eagles out there that can explain that one to me, I find that absolutely fascinating. And basically, is it an unindicted co-conspirator? I'm not sure, but I thought that was an interesting way to end, and I did not want to end on the Heritage Company because I'm not trying to depress the entire audience with that. So with that, those are your breaches of the last 2 weeks. It's been absolutely bonkers, and hopefully 2020 will be the year of the cyber defense strategy, the year of cybersecurity. We'll see where this goes, and those are your breaches of the week. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP, and please feel free to subscribe to me at YouTube as well. And as always, stay safe and stay online. Thanks, guys.